always have an outside-in mindset. Complacency is the killer of every great company. The moment you become complacent, hubris starts to set in, and that's when you start to decline. Morning, Christoph.
Hey, Adena, it's great to see you.
It's great to have you
Wonderful.
here. Thanks for joining us.
It is so great to be at Nasdaq headquarters. The atmosphere is just electric. We are right on Times Square. There are several client events happening. There's music. There's just so much energy. Is it always like this?
It is very consistently like this. It's one of my favorite things about being here. It's just hugely energizing.
It's infectious. I love it.
Great, thank you.
Now, Nasdaq is such an iconic company and an iconic brand in the financial world. Tell us something about Nasdaq that people do not know.
We are a great market operator, and we're really, really proud of that foundation. As we've grown and expanded our business, though, we've really focused on how do we partner with our clients to be a great provider of technology solutions that help them navigate the markets more effectively and really bring as much integrity, liquidity, and transparency into the industry as possible. I mean, those are the foundations of being a market. But now as a software provider and a truly scaled software provider to the industry, we really have followed those three key themes as we've expanded our presence.
We both started our careers at our companies as summer interns in the 90s. Then we joined permanently and we've become CEOs. There's no success without challenge. Tell us about a moment of truth that you had to navigate as a leader.
One of the things that we really have focused on during my tenure as CEO is modernizing markets. The moment of truth for us was the decision to move our market infrastructure technology to cloud. That was a very big decision for our company, but also recognizing that we don't just provide technology for our own markets, but we provide technology for 130 other markets around the world. So to make a determination to rewrite the entire trade lifecycle technology, cloud native, and to move our markets into cloud was a huge moment of truth for our organization.
It's harder to transform a successful company than it is to turn around a failing one. You had been enrolled for a number of years. Everything was going perfectly fine. And you come to your team and pitch this idea of a big kind of move into the cloud. How did your team react?
The first thing is you got to get the employees on board and you got to get them believing the future. They've got to understand that technology is an unstoppable force. Cloud is the future of technology. And it will underpin everything in the future. So therefore, if we don't start moving, we will fall behind. You've got to kind of create that sense of urgency. The second is then you have to educate them, make sure they understand the technology deeply so that they start to gain experience with it and they're not afraid of it. The third thing is then they have to be able to talk about it with an educated voice. And then you start going out and talking to clients.
Yeah.
It was super interesting to see how so quickly the mindset shifted once they realized what was possible.
And did you have your moments as a leader where you thought, ooh, I'm not sure this is moving at the right pace. I'm not sure people are really fully aligned behind the vision. I'm not sure I have the right talent to get this done. I mean, I'm sure there must have been some bumps.
Oh, yeah, all of those things.
Yeah.
So first of all, as you know, with CEOs, nothing ever moves fast enough. Putting those plans in place and being very structured in how everything was going to be built. We had bi-weekly meetings internally with core team, and then we actually had monthly meetings with a broader set of people, about 100 people, to kind of bring them along the educational curve, to show them and showcase new capabilities we were building, to help actually teach them the technology that underpins it. All of those things were super important to gaining the confidence of the team, gaining my confidence that this was actually moving all down the right direction. And absolutely, we had naysayers along the way. Absolutely. So you have to listen very carefully to those naysayers. They probably bring some credible elements to their arguments, but you can't let that be the reason why it doesn't progress. So all of that was underneath the surface of it.
Take me to the moment where you flipped the switch.
So there were actually two moments that we really, really defined the strategy. One was when I stood up in front of tens of thousands of people at AWS reInvent and announced that we were going to be moving our first market to cloud in 12 months. You know, that was a moment of truth because I had to basically put ourselves out there. And I had the technology team that was going to be building it literally in the front, watching, clapping, cheering, which was amazing because then they were there along with me as I was announcing this to the world. The second moment of truth, of course, was the day the market went live. And it was one of our options markets. We actually generate billions of messages a day in each of our options markets. So to see it operate so flawlessly, and in fact with improved latency, was just a great moment of truth for us.
You lead Nasdaq. Basically, every big tech company is listed on Nasdaq and talk about AI and Gen AI and the big next wave of stuff that's coming. How do you feel about that outlook and what's coming next for Nasdaq?
Every single year since I became CEO, we're re-underwriting those technologies that we believe will be truly foundational and formational in terms of the future of our industry. But Gen AI came onto the scene super fast. And it was amazing at how it just captured the imagination of everyone. And we're kind of on that offensive track now because of the technology coming in, but our data was already in a very modern state. Yeah. And it's also accelerated our conversations with our market tech clients, certainly, as they realize that the future of technology is unlocking the power of their data. How do they make sure that they're positioned to be able to do that? And it's completely accelerated our conversations on moving their markets into cloud infrastructure.
And as I speak with many CEOs around the world, we are at an all-time peak in terms of how many of them say that technology questions and now AI and Gen AI are kind of their moment of truth. They know it's going to be a fundamental change for their industry and for their business, but then they struggle how to tackle it. So I do think we are at the highest index that we've ever had. You have successfully steered through that with the big cloud transformation for Nasdaq. How has that shaped you as a leader, and what are some takeaways and wisdoms you could share?
Well, I think first of all, as a CEO, you sometimes can have a vision and you see where you want to go. But at the end of the day, the most important thing you can do is take a little time up front to bring the core team along with you. And I've learned that actually from some of the people who work for me. We have one incredible leader inside of Nasdaq who takes a little more time up front to really over-communicate what change is coming, why are we doing it, all the things that really kind of underpin the decision. Because once you get everyone on board, you run a lot faster. So I think that that's a key part of gaining that internal momentum is by making sure that you explain why you're doing things. Make sure you educate them on the technology so they kind of live and breathe it, and make it so that they get as excited as you are to take the journey, because you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that still mitigates risk. So that was, I would say, the biggest lesson. The second thing is having an internal mechanism for educating and keeping the right people in the right seats. You know, if you're a growth company, it's a natural attractor of talent. So if you can kind of create that growth mindset and get the momentum going, it actually becomes self-fulfilling over time. And then the third thing is always have an outside-in mindset. The moment you become complacent, hubris starts to set in, and that's when you start to decline. And we have to transform all the time to be durable, lasting companies. So that need to be always on the forefront of what's next, bringing that outside-in perspective is critical in that process, making sure you never get overly comfortable and confident in your capabilities is actually a quintessential part of Nasdaq. We are born as a disruptor, and we want to continue to take that culture and live and breathe that at Nasdaq every day.
Well, wonderful. Adena, it is so energizing to be here at Nasdaq headquarters. It is even more inspiring to hear from you, and thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks, Christoph. It was great talking to you today.